Dr. Emeka, a successful Nigerian surgeon based in the United States, returned to Nigeria with high hopes of finding a wife who embodied the qualities of a true African partner, someone who could be his companion, mother to his future children, and love of his life. Although he was wealthy and well-educated, his heart yearned for simplicity, honesty, and a genuine connection. The disappointment in Lagos. When Dr. Emeka landed in Lagos, the city greeted him with its usual chaos, honking cars, busy streets, and the unending hustle and bustle. Despite the noise, he was optimistic. He believed that in this vibrant city, full of opportunities and diverse people, he would find the woman of his dreams. He moved into a luxurious apartment in Ikoyi and began mingling in social circles where he hoped to meet someone genuine. Emeka started attending high-end events, from weddings to charity galas and business dinners. At every event, he was swarmed by women who were drawn to his charm, good looks, and most of all, his wealth. It didn't take long before whispers about him spread. "Have you heard about that rich doctor from the US? He's single." "Really? That kind of man doesn't come around often. I need to meet him." Women began to go out of their way to catch his attention. One evening at a dinner party, a woman named Angela introduced herself, smiling sweetly. She wore an expensive gown, carried a designer bag, and spoke with an accent she had clearly rehearsed. "So, Dr. Emeka," she began, leaning forward, "I'm sure life in America is fabulous. But you know, a man like you needs a woman who understands luxury." She giggled, batting her lashes. Emeka smiled politely but felt uneasy. As the conversation continued, he realized that Angela was more interested in his lifestyle than in him. She talked endlessly about her desire to travel, her favorite designers, and the kind of mansion she'd like to live in someday. Not once did she ask about his dreams, his challenges, or his values. The same pattern repeated itself everywhere he went. At a friend's wedding, he met another woman, Cynthia, who seemed promising at first. She was educated and articulate, and they talked for hours. But as their conversation grew deeper, her true intentions became clear. "Emeka, you're such a kind man," she said, touching his arm. "I can already imagine us building a big house together. Maybe in Banana Island? I've always wanted to live there." He sighed inwardly. Why was it that every woman he met seemed to focus on his money and status? None of them seemed interested in knowing him for who he truly was. Lagos wasn't just about parties and high-class events. Emeka also decided to explore simpler places, hoping to find someone who wasn't caught up in the glitz and glamour. He visited local markets and even tried volunteering at a community clinic. But even there, word of his wealth followed him like a shadow. One day at a small cafe in Lekki, he struck up a conversation with a young woman named Amara. She seemed humble and kind, and for a moment he thought she might be different. But as they spoke, she casually mentioned, "You know, I don't usually date men who don't drive exotic cars. But for you, I can make an exception." Her words stung. Once again, it wasn't him she wanted. It was the lifestyle he could provide. The final blow came during a charity event. A woman named Lola approached him with a warm smile and a story about how she admired his dedication to healthcare. Emeka felt a glimmer of hope. They exchanged numbers and started chatting regularly. But after a few weeks, Lola's messages shifted. She began asking for money, first for small things, then for more extravagant requests. "Emeka, I need to upgrade my phone." "You don't mind, right? After all, you're so generous." "Emeka, there's this trip to Dubai my friends are planning. I'd love to go, but I need a little help with the ticket." By the end of the month, Emeka was drained, not financially, but emotionally. Every woman he met in Lagos seemed to see him as a bank account, not a person. They didn't care about his heart, his dreams, or his vision of a loving, supportive marriage. He realized that in this city, appearances and wealth mattered more than authenticity. Late one night, as he sat alone in his lavish apartment, staring out at the city lights, he felt a deep sadness. He had everything money could buy, yet he felt more alone than ever. The Lagos he had once seen as full of possibilities now felt like a place of empty connections and shallow relationships. "This isn't where I'll find her," he thought to himself. "The woman I'm looking for isn't here." With a heavy heart, Emeka packed his bags and prepared to leave. Lagos. He had hoped to find love in the city of dreams, but all he found were masks. Little did he know his journey was only just beginning. The same story in Abuja. After the disappointment in Lagos, Dr. Emeka set his sights on Abuja, the nation's capital. Abuja, with its well-planned streets, lush greenery, and air of sophistication, felt like a breath of fresh air. It was a city of power and prestige, where diplomats, politicians, and high achievers gathered. If Lagos was loud and chaotic, Abuja was calm and dignified. This city will be different, Emeka thought to himself as his car cruised past the grand buildings and upscale neighborhoods. He was hopeful that Abuja, with its refined crowd, would offer the kind of woman he was searching for, someone grounded, intelligent and sincere. The social scene. Dr. Emeka wasted no time getting involved in the city's social scene. He attended exclusive dinners, business conferences, and charity balls. His first night at a high-profile event in Asokoro was dazzling. Women dressed in flowing gowns mingled with powerful men, the room filled with laughter and clinking glasses. It didn't take long for Emeka to become the center of attention. Word quickly spread about the handsome, successful doctor from the U.S. Women approached him with warm smiles and practiced charm. "Dr. Emeka, you must tell me about your time in America," one woman said, leaning closer. Her name was Mariam, and she was stunning, with a polished appearance and an air of confidence. For the first time, Emeka felt intrigued, but as they talked, Mariam's focus shifted. "So what car do you drive? You must have a Range Rover at least. Oh, and do you have a house here or just in Lagos?" Her question stung. She was less interested in his dreams and more fascinated by his possessions. When he tried to steer the conversation towards meaningful topics like family values or her ambitions, she quickly lost interest. Another heartbreak. Determined to give Abuja another chance, Emeka met with different women. At a networking event in Maitama, he struck up a conversation with a young entrepreneur named Adana. She spoke eloquently about her business, her education, and her vision for the future. Emeka was impressed, but as their relationship developed, cracks began to show. One evening, during a dinner date at an upscale restaurant, Adana casually mentioned her expectations. "I believe a man should completely provide for his woman," she said, sipping her wine. "My dream is to marry someone who can take me on shopping sprees in Paris and buy me a house in Dubai." Emeka's heart sank. Once again, he realized he wasn't being seen as a person, but as a means to a lavish lifestyle. A glimpse of hope. One Sunday morning, Emeka attended a church service in Gwarinpa, hoping to find someone grounded in faith. After the service, he met a young woman named Zainab. She seemed humble and warm, and they had an engaging conversation. "I admire your passion for helping people as a doctor," Zainab said. "The world needs more people like you." For the first time, Emeka felt seen for who he was. They exchanged numbers and began chatting frequently. But after a few weeks, the conversations took a turn. Zainab started dropping hints about financial struggles and later directly asked for help. "Dr. Emeka, I hate to bother you, but my rent is due and I'm in a tight spot. Can you help me out?" Emeka sighed deeply. He wanted to believe her, but the pattern was becoming all too familiar. Was there anyone who wanted him, not his money? Disillusionment. By the end of his second month in Abuja, Emeka felt drained. The same stories from Lagos repeated themselves here, only with a more polished veneer. Women were attracted to his success, his foreign education, and his potential to provide a life of luxury. None of them seemed to care about his heart, his values, or the kind of life he truly wanted to build. One evening, Emeka sat alone in his hotel room, staring at the Abuja skyline. The city lights sparkled in the distance, but they felt cold and distant, much like the people he had met. His heart was heavy with disappointment. "This isn't it," he murmured. "This city may be beautiful, but it's no different from Lagos. I'm just a prize to be won, not a person to be loved." With a deep sigh, he made a decision. He would leave the cities behind and return to his roots. If the fast-paced, glamorous world of Lagos and Abuja couldn't offer him what he was looking for, maybe the simplicity of the village could. Little did he know, his journey to true love was about to take a dramatic turn. A bold decision, disguise in the village. After the heartbreaks in Lagos and Abuja, Dr. Emeka felt lost and exhausted. The cities, with their glittering lights and glamorous people, had offered him nothing but empty connections. Late one night, sitting on the balcony of his home, he gazed at the stars and thought about his late mother. She used to tell him, true love isn't about what someone has. It's about who they are. Her words echoed in his mind, filling him with a sudden clarity. I'll go back to the village, he decided. I'll strip away everything that makes me look wealthy and see if someone can love me for the man I am, not the doctor, not the rich man, just Emeka. The transformation. To prepare for his journey, Emeka packed away his designer suits, wristwatches and leather shoes. Instead, he bought simple clothes, faded jeans, old shirts and cheap sandals. He let go of his sleek car and instead took a public bus to his ancestral village. There, he rented a small room on the outskirts and began his new life. To blend in, he set up a small roadside stall under a tree, selling biscuits, sweets, chewing gum, bananas and small cakes. He arranged his goods neatly on a wooden table and sat on a low stool, waiting for customers. For the first time in years, Emeka felt invisible. No one greeted him with admiration or envy. To the villagers, he was just another poor vendor trying to make a living. But Emeka wasn't discouraged. This was exactly what he wanted. A chance to observe, to meet people without the weight of his wealth defining their behavior. The challenges of disguise. Living as a poor man wasn't easy. The sun was merciless, beating down on him as he sat by the roadside, calling out to passers-by. Many ignored him. Some mocked him. Children giggled and whispered, "Why is this big man selling biscuits?" One day a young woman walked past his stall, her face filled with disdain. When Emeka greeted her warmly and offered her a biscuit, she sneered. "Do I look like someone who eats roadside biscuits?" She snapped before walking away. Another time, he tried to strike up a conversation with a group of women at the village market. They laughed at his tattered clothes and told him, "If you don't have money, don't waste our time." Each rejection stung, but Emeka reminded himself why he was doing this. He wasn't looking for women who valued appearances, searching for a rare gem, someone who could see beyond the surface. The encounter. One sunny afternoon, as Emeka sat at his stall arranging his goods, 3 young women approached. They were chatting and laughing as they looked through his items. He greeted them with a smile and asked, "What can I get for you today?" The women giggled and bought a few biscuits. After the sale, Emeka tried to start a conversation. "My name is Emeka. I'm new here. Can we be friends?" 2 of the women rolled their eyes and burst into laughter. "Friends? With you?" One of them mocked. "Look at you. You don't even have proper shoes." Women don't befriend broke men. They turned away, still laughing, but one of them stayed behind. Her name was Uzomma. Unlike her friends, she had a warm smile and kind eyes. She looked at Emeka and said, "Friendship isn't about money. Sometimes it's about being there for each other." Her words struck a chord in Emeka. For the first time since he began his disguise, someone saw beyond his appearance. They began to talk, and Uzomma told him about herself. She was a nurse, passionate about helping people and making a difference in her community. As they talked, Emeka realized Uzomma was different. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was honest, humble, and sincere. A test of friendship. Over the following weeks, Emeka and Uzomma grew closer. He found himself looking forward to their conversations. They talked about life, dreams, and struggles. She treated him with kindness, never once asking about his finances or background. But their growing friendship didn't go unnoticed. Uzomma's friends mocked her for spending time with Emeka. "You're wasting your time with that poor vendor," one of them said. "What can he possibly offer you? Meanwhile, we're out here meeting men who can actually change our lives." Despite the pressure, Uzomma stood her ground. "Friendship isn't about what someone can give you," she replied. "It's about who they are." Hope rekindled. Emeka was touched by Uzomma's loyalty and kindness. For the first time in years, he felt hope. She didn't see him as a rich man or a poor man, just as a person. He knew he had to be careful with his feelings. Would she still care for him if she knew the truth? Could she handle the life he truly lived? Every day at his roadside stall, Emeka watched as people judged him by his disguise. But Uzomma never wavered. Her actions and words reminded him that love wasn't about wealth or appearances. It was about connection, trust and respect. Little did Uzomma know, the man she saw as a humble vendor was far more than he seemed. And little did Emeka know, Uzomma might just be the woman he had been searching for all along. The Yahoo boys and temptation. It was a lazy afternoon, and Dr. Emeka, still in his disguise as a roadside vendor, sat at his makeshift stall, arranging biscuits and sweets. Uzomma, the kind-hearted nurse who had become his closest companion, had just left after buying a bottle of water and sharing a quick chat. Emeka's heart felt lighter every time she was around, but he knew their friendship was under silent scrutiny. Her friends and even some villagers had started to gossip. "She's wasting her time with that broke vendor," they would say. But Uzomma didn't care. Her sincerity was a light in the darkness of Emeka's journey. However, the peace between them didn't last long. One day, as Emeka sat under his usual tree, he noticed a convoy of expensive cars roll into the village square. The sleek Benz and Lexus SUVs sparkled under the sunlight, and the engines roared like a declaration of power. From the cars stepped a group of young men, dressed in flashy designer outfits, gold chains glinting around their necks, and their wrists heavy with expensive watches. They oozed confidence, swaggering as if the world belonged to them. They were Yahoo boys, internet fraudsters notorious for their flamboyant lifestyle. Their arrival caused an immediate stir. The villagers stared in awe as the men handed out crisp naira notes to children, laughed loudly, and walked as if the earth should bow beneath their feet. Among those who noticed were Uzomma's two friends, the same ones who had mocked Emeka when he first approached them. Their eyes lit up with excitement as they nudged each other. "See those cars?" one whispered. "That's the life we deserve." The Yahoo boys soon noticed the two women staring and walked over. One of the men, wearing oversized sunglasses and holding car keys like a trophy, smiled at them. "Hello, pretty ladies. You're too fine to be walking around this village. Let's show you how real men treat women." The women giggled, flattered by the attention. Within minutes, they were exchanging numbers and taking selfies with the men. The exotic cars and promise of luxury were all it took to capture their interest. Uzomma stood a few steps away, watching silently. One of the Yahoo boys, noticing her beauty, tried to draw her into the conversation. "Hey you," he called out, flashing a wide smile. "Why are you standing there alone? Come and join us. We can take you out of this village life." But Uzomma politely declined, shaking her head. "I'm fine, thank you," she said firmly and walked away. The other women didn't share her restraint. They quickly became friendly with the Yahoo boys, who promised to take them on shopping sprees and parties in the city. Over the next few days, the women began riding in the flashy cars, visiting expensive clubs in nearby towns, and flaunting their new lives. The tension between friends. As Uzomma watched her friends drift further into the arms of the fraudsters, they began pressuring her to join them. "Uzomma, what are you doing wasting time with that poor vendor?" one of them sneered. "Look at us. We're living the life. These guys can give us everything we've ever dreamed of. Money, cars, designer clothes. What can that Emeka give you? Biscuits?" Uzomma frowned but kept calm. "Friendship and love aren't about money," she replied. "Those things don't last. What happens when the cars are gone? When the money stops?" Her friends burst into laughter. "You're living in a dream, Uzomma. Enjoy your poverty with your biscuit seller. We'll be in the city sipping champagne." The pressure was relentless. Even strangers in the village began gossiping. Why is Uzomma wasting her beauty on a man like that? Look at her friends. They know how to choose wisely. A warning from Emeka. One evening, Uzomma visited Emeka at his stall. She looked troubled, her friends' taunts echoing in her mind. Emeka noticed her silence and asked gently, "What's wrong?" She hesitated, then said, "My friends think I'm a fool for spending time with you. They think I should go after men with money, like those Yahoo boys." Emeka's heart clenched. He had seen the way the fraudsters flaunted their wealth, the way the village buzzed around them as if they were kings. He took a deep breath and said, "Uzomma, don't let their glitter blind you. Wealth earned dishonestly will never bring lasting happiness. Those men, they're building castles in the sand. When the waves come, everything will wash away." Uzomma looked at him, her eyes searching his face for answers. "I don't care about money, Emeka. I care about someone who respects me, who values my heart. That's why I trust you." Her words touched him deeply, and he silently vowed to protect her from the chaos around them. The fall of the Yahoo Boys. Just weeks later, the truth about the Yahoo Boys unraveled during one of their late-night parties. The men were ambushed by operatives from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Their exotic cars were seized, and they were dragged away in handcuffs as the villagers watched in shock. Uzomma's friends, who had been enjoying the luxury, were left humiliated and stranded. They had nothing to show for their loyalty to the fraudsters, only whispers of shame and regret. The village, once captivated by the Yahoo Boys' wealth, now gossiped about their downfall. Meanwhile, Uzomma remained steadfast. She had chosen integrity over fleeting glamour, and for that, Emeka admired her even more, watching her resist the temptation that had ensnared so many others. Emeka knew she was different. He knew she was the one. One sunny afternoon, Uzomma decided to spend her day off with Emeka at his roadside stall. She enjoyed the simplicity of his presence, the way he treated everyone with kindness, and how he made her feel valued. She had no interest in the material things her friends pursued, and though she didn't fully understand Emeka's life, she trusted him. As they sat chatting, Emeka realized his stock was running low. "Uzomma, can you stay here for me? I need to run to Eke market and buy more goods." "Of course," Uzomma replied, taking her seat behind the wooden table. Emeka smiled, thanked her, and hurried off. In his rush, he left behind a second phone, his professional business phone, tucked into the pocket of his bag. The call that changed everything. While Uzomma was arranging biscuits on the table, the phone rang. It wasn't a regular ringtone, but a loud, urgent buzz. The screen lit up with a caller ID labeled "Clinic Emergency," and a message notification popped up immediately after. "Dr. Emeka, we need your input on the surgical report. Please respond ASAP." Uzomma's eyes widened as she saw the words flash across the screen. Medical terms she couldn't understand filled the message preview. She hesitated, but didn't touch the phone. "It's not my phone," she thought. "My parents always taught me to respect people's privacy." When Emeka returned, Uzomma handed him the phone and casually mentioned, "Your phone rang." It seemed important, something about a clinic. Emeka froze. He quickly grabbed the phone, scrolling through the missed call and message. His heart raced. Uzomma didn't realize how close she had come to uncovering his true identity. "Why didn't you pick up the call?" he asked, trying to sound calm. Uzomma shrugged and replied softly, "It's not my phone. I was raised to respect people's privacy. Emeka, I wouldn't touch something that doesn't belong to me." Her words struck him deeply. Her integrity and humility were unlike anything he had ever experienced. Struggling to maintain his cover, Emeka changed the subject quickly. "Uzomma, you've mentioned your parents a few times. Tell me more about them." She smiled, happy to talk about her family. "My father's name is Ejiamatu. It means example of good behavior. He's a farmer, hardworking and disciplined. My mother is Izine, a good mother. She's gentle and kind, always taking care of us. We don't have much, but they've taught us the importance of honesty, respect and love." Hearing her speak so fondly of her parents reminded Emeka of his own family. Uzomma then turned the conversation back to him. "What about your parents, Emeka? And that call earlier, what was it about?" The words looked so professional. Caught off guard, Emeka quickly dismissed the question. "Oh, the call. It was a wrong number," he lied. "As for my parents, they're no longer with us. It's just me now." He avoided her gaze, not wanting her to see the truth in his eyes. Meeting Uzomma's family. Days later, Emeka decided to take a bold step. He wanted to know more about Uzomma's roots, to see where her values and strength of character came from. So without telling her, he visited her family's home. When he arrived, he was greeted warmly but cautiously by her parents. They offered him kola nuts, a traditional sign of hospitality, but the questions came soon after. Ejiamatu, her father, leaned forward, his voice firm but polite. "You said you're a friend to our daughter. What is your motive in becoming her friend? In our culture, as you know, a well-raised man and woman do not become friends without clear intentions." Emeka sat up straight, choosing his words carefully. "Sir, I have great respect for Uzomma. She is kind, humble, and full of integrity. I have no intention of misleading her. I simply admire her for the person she is." Her mother, Ezine, added gently, "We raised Uzomma with care. We don't want her to fall into the wrong hands. Tell us, where are you from? Which family do you belong to?" Emeka swallowed hard. He knew this was his chance to reveal the truth, but he wasn't ready. "I'm just a simple man, Ma. My parents passed away when I was young, and I've been working hard to make an honest living since then." They nodded, though their eyes held curiosity. Just as the questions were winding down, the door opened, and Uzomma walked in from work. Uzomma's shock. When Uzomma saw Emeka sitting with her parents, she froze. Her mind raced. What is he doing here? Did he tell them about us? She quickly regained her composure and greeted her parents respectfully.
"Good evening, Papa. Good evening, Mama."
"Good evening, my daughter," her father replied. "Come here." Uzomma approached cautiously, avoiding Emeka's gaze. Her father gestured toward him. "Do you know this man?" There was a long pause. Uzomma's heart pounded in her chest as she debated what to say. Finally she nodded. "Yes, I know him." Her mother leaned forward, her tone curious. "Who is he to you?" Uzomma hesitated, then answered, "He's my friend." Her father studied her for a moment before nodding. "All right, you can go to your room now." Relieved, Uzomma excused herself and disappeared into the house. But her mind was spinning. She had so many questions. Why had Emeka come to her home? What had he told her parents? And why did he continue to hide so much of himself? Emeka's reflection. As Emeka left Uzomma's house later that evening, he felt a mix of emotions. Her parents' warmth and their protective nature reminded him of what he truly wanted in life, a family built on love and respect. Yet he couldn't shake the guilt of his deception. He looked back at the modest home as he walked away, knowing he was falling deeper in love with Uzomma. But he also knew that sooner or later, the truth about who he was would have to come out. The truth unveiled. That evening, Uzomma's parents, Ejiamatu and Ezine, called her into the living room. The air was heavy, their expressions serious. Uzomma sat quietly, her heart pounding as she braced for what was coming. Ejiamatu began, his tone firm but fatherly. "My daughter, you are from a family of good name and reputation. We raised you to be disciplined and to make choices that honor who you are. You must not allow yourself to be deceived or misled by any man." Ezine added, "Your friend Emeka, as calm and respectful as he seems, remains a mystery. He speaks with elegance and carries himself boldly, but we know nothing about who he really is. He hides his identity, and that is a warning sign." Ejiamatu nodded in agreement. "Until he reveals who he truly is, I do not want to see him around you. A relationship without clarity or purpose is not one you should be involved in. Protect your heart, my daughter." Uzomma sat in silence, their words weighing heavily on her mind. She respected her parents deeply and understood their concern, but her heart ached with confusion. Emeka had always been kind and respectful, but who was he really? She realized she had never asked him directly. Confronting Emeka. The next day, after work, Uzomma went straight to Emeka's stall. Her steps were heavy, her face clouded with worry. When she arrived, Emeka greeted her with his usual warm smile, but she didn't return it. Instead, she stood in front of him, her arms crossed. "Emeka," she began, her voice steady but serious, "I need to know the truth. Who are you really? Last night my parents questioned me about you. They told me not to see you again until you reveal your true identity." Emeka's heart sank. He had always known this moment would come, but it didn't make it any easier. He looked at her, guilt and hesitation in his eyes. He thought about his plan, how he had disguised himself to find true love. Now that very plan was unraveling. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Uzomma, I have no problem with identity. My name is Emeka Anajemba, and I'm from Umueze village." "That is the truth." But there's more I need to explain, and I want to do it properly, in the presence of your parents. Please give me a few days, and I will come to your home to tell them everything." Uzomma studied his face, searching for any hint of dishonesty. Something in his tone, and the mention of his family and village, calmed her. She nodded slowly. "All right, Emeka, but please, no more secrets. My parents deserve answers." Ejiamatu's investigation. When Uzomma returned home and shared what Emeka had told her, Ejiamatu's curiosity deepened. Early the next morning, he packed his bag and traveled to Umweza village to investigate Emeka's claims. Upon arriving, he introduced himself to the village elders and explained his purpose. "I'm here to inquire about a young man named Emeka Anajemba. He claims to be from this village and is courting my daughter." The elders exchanged puzzled looks. One of them finally spoke. "The only Emeka Anajemba we know is a medical director living in the United States. He's a successful man who built a mansion here in the village. He doesn't live in Nigeria." Another elder confirmed, "Yes, that's true. Emeka Anajemba is well known, but he's not in the country." They even took Ejiamatu to the grand mansion Emeka had built, further convincing him that the man his daughter was seeing was lying. Furious and confused, Ejiamatu returned home and shared his findings with his wife and Uzomma. "That man is not who he says he is," he declared. "The real Emeka is living in the US, and his family doesn't even know about this vendor nonsense. He's deceiving us." Uzomma felt her world collapse. She trusted Emeka, but now she didn't know what to believe. Her parents' warnings rang louder in her mind, and she decided to start avoiding him. Each time Emeka tried to approach her, she made an excuse or walked away. The revelation. 1 week later, Uzomma's family was gathered in the living room when they heard a knock at the door. Ejiamatu opened it to find Emeka standing there, accompanied by 2 older men and a woman. They were well-dressed and carried an air of dignity. "Good evening, sir," Emeka greeted, bowing respectfully. "I've come to formally introduce myself and explain everything." Ejiamatu let them in, his expression stern. As they all sat down, Emeka took a deep breath and began. "My name is Dr. Emeka Anajemba," he said. "I am the man your daughter told you about. But I haven't been honest about who I truly am. I'm a medical director based in the United States. I returned to Nigeria to find a wife. Not just anyone, but a woman who values love, respect, and partnership. I disguised myself as a vendor because I wanted to see people for who they really are, without the influence of money or status." He turned to Uzomma, his eyes full of sincerity. "Uzomma, I'm sorry for deceiving you, but my intentions were never to hurt you. I wanted to be sure that the woman I chose would love me for who I am, not for what I have." Ejiamatu and Ezine listened intently, their expressions softening as Emeka's companions confirmed his story. They explained that Emeka's disguise was part of his plan to find genuine love, and that his wealth and position had often attracted the wrong people. After a long silence, Ejiamatu finally spoke.
"You are bold, young man."
"What you have done is unusual, but your explanation is clear. If my daughter can forgive you, then so can we." Uzomma, who had been silent the entire time, finally found her voice. "Emeka, I trusted you because you were kind and sincere. Even though you hid the truth, I see now that your heart was in the right place. The beginning of forever." The morning of Uzomma's wedding was unlike any other day in the village. The sun rose in golden splendor, casting a warm glow over the entire community. The once quiet and humble village of Uzomma's family had transformed overnight into a grand festival ground. The air buzzed with excitement, and whispers of admiration floated in every corner. "Good behavior truly pays," the villagers murmured among themselves. The same people who once mocked Ejiamatu and Ezine for raising their daughter with strict morals, but having little wealth to show for it, were now eating their words. The family they called ordinary is now hosting the biggest wedding this village has ever seen, an elderly woman said, shaking her head in amazement. People poured in from across Nigeria, but what stunned the villagers the most were the guests from the United States, arriving in luxury cars, dressed in dazzling outfits. Emeka's colleagues, friends, and family had traveled from far and wide to witness the union. Some came from Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and even London. The presence of powerful dignitaries, medical professionals, and wealthy business associates turned Uzomma's wedding into an event of a lifetime. Uzomma's friends, a lesson learned. Meanwhile, Uzomma's old friends, those who had abandoned her for the Yahoo boys, stood at the sidelines, watching the grand ceremony with mixed emotions. They wore envious smiles, their once proud and carefree attitudes now replaced with regret. One of them, Chika, sighed deeply. Who would have thought that the same Emeka we laughed at is actually a millionaire doctor? Another Adesi shook her head. Uzomma was wise. We were foolish. We chased after men with cars and flashy money, but where are they now? Jailed, and look at Uzomma marrying a man who truly loves her. They felt ashamed, but they also learned a valuable lesson. Honesty, patience, and good character always win in the end. A wedding like no other. The ceremony itself was breathtaking. The decorations were exquisite, with flowers and drapes that turned the entire village square into a magical place. Traditional dancers performed with energy, masquerades entertained the guests, and drummers played beats that made everyone's hearts race with excitement. Uzomma, dressed in a royal red and gold Igbo bridal attire, looked like a queen. Coral beads adorned her neck, wrists, and ankles. Her beauty radiated, but more than that, the happiness in her eyes showed she had found true love. Emeka, now dressed in the full regalia of an Igbo groom, stood tall and proud beside her. The same man who once sat under a tree selling biscuits was now the center of admiration, and the whole village praised his wisdom and humility. The officiating elders and priests conducted the traditional marriage rites. Kola nuts were broken, wine was presented, and blessings were showered upon the couple. When the time came for Uzomma to find her husband in the crowd and offer him a cup of palm wine, she gracefully walked through the guests, ignoring their cheers and laughter. She reached Emeka, knelt before him with a smile, and handed him the cup. As he drank from it, the crowd erupted into loud cheers. "It is sealed," the elders declared. "This union is blessed." The wedding feast was unlike anything the village had ever seen. Tables overflowed with food, jollof rice, pounded yam, pepper soup, and roasted meats. Expensive wines and drinks flowed freely. Even the poorest in the village ate like kings that day, changing Uzomma's family's status. After the wedding, Emeka did not forget his promise to Uzomma's parents. He built them a beautiful modern house in the village, replacing their old home with a mansion that left the villagers speechless. Ejiamatu, once seen as just a struggling farmer, now walked with pride. Edine, the kind and loving mother, could no longer hide her tears of joy. "Our daughter has brought us honor," she whispered as she stood before their new home. But the greatest transformation came with the hospital. As a doctor, Emeka had always wanted to give back. And what better way to do so than by providing his wife's community with quality health care? He established a state-of-the-art hospital, employing nurses, doctors, and other medical staff from within and outside the village. The same villagers who once whispered about Uzomma's parents now praised them. They raised their daughter well and see how she has brought prosperity to them, a love that inspired many. As the months passed, the story of Emeka and Uzomma spread far and wide. Their love became a symbol of patience, honesty, and destiny. Women who once chased after material things started rethinking their values. Young men learned that true wealth was not in showing off, but in character and integrity. One day, Uzomma's father, Ejiamatu, sat outside his new home and watched children playing in the yard. He smiled and said to his wife, "Ezine, you see, good behavior truly pays." She nodded, her heart full. "Yes, it does." And so, Emeka and Uzomma's love story became the beginning of forever, not just for them, but for everyone who witnessed their journey. This story teaches us to always give our children a better home training. For good behavior pays always. Enjoy the tale, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring, timeless stories. Together, let's spread love and kindness and peace.